very much for the opportunity. I think to start with, when we're looking at women in agribusiness, we need to consider the land tenure systems in our various jurisdictions, because most of the time the women do a lot of the heavy lifting, but when it comes to the fair wages, when it comes to the rights, they don't own the land, and therefore they can't even use it as collateral. The studies show that women tend to pay their loans back more at high rates than the men do. But the barriers to women getting loans, especially the so-called grassroots women, is the fact that they don't have collateral that they can actually use in order to avail of the loans, which basically means that the most vulnerable women end up being the ones who have the least amount of access to exactly the thing that we're trying to use to build them, which is the financing. In addition to that, I think that as we look at women in the cross-border issues with regards to the 90%, perhaps we should be looking at a situation where every country at the border posts should have a certain quota of female officers who are customs and immigration officers, to make sure that when women are coming through the border, there is that sense of added protection by the presence of other women there as well. And then, of course, on the more controversial reparations issue, I think that we shouldn't just look at the issue of slave trade as slave trade. We need to look at it as a conquest and people who are taken as prisoners of war. And if we can look at it through that lens, we may be seeing a different way in which we can approach this issue of reparations. Most of those countries, the US and the countries in the European Union and the EU, that built their countries, built it on the slavery, on the blood, on the toil of Africans who were taken against their will. They never had to sign unfair trade agreements. They never had to sign on to contracts that put them at a disadvantage. So when we're looking at reparations, let's look at it in kind as well. How can we have these people, in paying back, actually help us in terms of rebuilding our roads, setting up the infrastructure we need, whether it's the IT, whether it's electricity, power, all of the things that will make us leapfrog into the space that we really need to be, to give us a solid base on which to build everything else that we're talking about in terms of women's empowerment and support of economies. Thank you very much. And
thank you. The next.
Thank you. And in conclusion, I think that we should put financial value to what the women bring to the table. Too many women are working, they're paid, they're not paid, the work is not recognized. We must put a financial value on the unpaid labor of women on the continent in order to make sure that more women are empowered. Thank you very much.